Okay, here we have ticket 8744. This is a flugelhorn, a Yamaha flugelhorn, a silver Yamaha flugelhorn, and it has the model number of YFH731, serial number 003367. This model is not made anymore by Yamaha, and more to the issue at hand, certain parts aren't made by Yamaha anymore. In particular, this part here. This is the crux of the issue with this instrument, is on the second piston, the valve guide. The valve guide has no support brace, which the others do. Let me show you one for comparison. Okay, you can see that's the original part in this piston here, the third. This little valve guide right here, and this is what we have in the second. Now, let's get you to focus. There we go. It's not the original part. It's been stuck in somehow. We'll get to the bottom of that, but it's not the original part. So, because we can't order the original part anymore, our goal here, our aim, is going to be to solder the little replacement valve guide in here onto the piston. We need to be wary of lots of things. Exact placement, of course, also the effect of heat on the shape of the piston, and the spread of the solder, etc., etc. So that's our goal. It's not playing at the moment, and as you'll see, the replacement part is loose. You can see it's just moving, just with a touch of the spring hook here. So we're going to get this apart, line it up, and this will be a precision solder job to get this flugelhorn back into action. Okay, here we have the second and third pistons. Let's get the stems off of here so we can have a bit of a closer look at what we're dealing with. And we've got the third one here for comparison's sake. The third stem is a bit tight. Let's just loosen that. Okay. And nice new felts in these buttons here. Okay. So you can see what we should have, and we can see what we do have. I think it's time to clean up this second piston. So let's see. Is this how this valve guide is being held in? I think it's been soldered in previously, and the solder is loose. I'm not going to use much force here, just trying to find out how it's being held in. And there we go. Out entirely. Okay, so it has been soldered in previously. Let me just try and get this in focus here. So I'm not sure if you can see this here. Alright, so we're going to heat this all up, clean out the focus, heat this all up, clean out the old solder, prepare a new solder site on this second piston here. Okay, here is our piston cleaned up of most of the old solder, enough to get a good bond on. Here is the valve guide, the replacement valve guide that was in there. And you can see it's got this little tab. I'm not sure quite how that's attached to the back. Is it hard solder? Is it a piece from another instrument? Sorry, let me get that in focus so you can see it there. Right, there's got that little tab on the back, and there's the front of it. So the idea here is, I've already dropped this once, so I'm going to try not to drop it again. The idea here is that this valve guide here is going to sit in the little, there's a nook for the old part, and that's going to sit in something along the lines of that. Obviously it needs to sit, be recessed a bit further in, like this. We're going to cross-reference that with where that needs to sit with the other one, so that these ports end up marrying correctly to the inside of the casing. So that's the idea. So we're going to get some solder in here, some flux in here, solder this together, and then we'll test the porting on the actual instrument. Okay, we're back with an update, and for reference, this is ticket 8744. We did manage to solder the old replacement valve guide back on. However, in testing, it didn't stand up to the forces applied to it. So the guide actually snapped, chipped away. The actual brass guide chipped away, and then the solder let go. There just wasn't enough bonding there. It's not possible with this design, which is why it happened the first time. Why it came loose the first time. So our next step is to switch to steel and redesign a replacement valve altogether. So I've taken the steel insert out of, this is a Jupiter euphonium valve guide. This is from a Yamaha euphonium valve guide. So we're going to adapt this. We'll have a much bigger surface area to be able to solder into the piston, and the good news is that the actual guide itself is the exact right width to fit. So we're going to the way these work is these go vertically up and down like this. This is going to have to be bent 90 degrees, so we'll have a platform to solder, lots of surface area to solder underneath, and then this will travel with the valve guide, not perpendicular, with the piston, not perpendicular. So here is our piston here. It needs a little bit of cleanup from the old solder. This will end up like this. We're going to bend the rest around into this recess here. That should give us plenty, or into this recess here, that should give us plenty of surface area for the solder, as well as underneath the actual guide part of this onto the face of the piston. Okay, let's get this adapted and cut down to size and fit, then we'll see how we go with the solder. Okay, here's another update for you. Here is the part that we've made, I should say adapted from a euphonium valve guide. Here is what it used to look like, and that's the part we've made there. This is the old valve guide which we had soldered previously, which had snapped and then dislodged. So I'm doing my best to keep this in focus, but dealing with small parts here. Okay, so here is where the focus, here is where the valve guide needs to be recessed into. It's going to sit in here, something like that. We've got a lot more surface area to solder. Here is the original part for comparison. That's no longer made. I did consider making something more similar to the original part, but since the original replacement was soldered in, there is solid solder down into the screw hole, which we would otherwise have used to screw in a replacement part. In this case, we have to now solder from the get-go. So we'll arrange this valve guide so it sits in there, how it it's aligned correctly, and then we'll get this soldered in and test it in the casing. Okay, and then there is the replacement valve guide soldered on. It's a little bit proud of the casing, so we're just going to now very, very carefully file that down until it's the same. Let's see if we can line these up and get the dimensions there. You can see that it just needs to come down a bit to fit the casing, but the alignment looks, I'm really happy with the alignment, so let's just get it fitting in the casing. Okay, another update for you. We are really sneaking up on it now. We're just clearing into the casing, but it's a bit tight, so we're just going to really slow down on our shaping of the valve guide. It's one of the features of reductive manufacturing is that you can never add back on what you've taken off, so we're just going to really creep up on it now. Just for the sake of showing what I'm talking about, here's what it looks like at the moment. Let me see here, get you lined up, and we're clearing into the casing. We've got movement into here, but it is just a bit stiff and ungainly, so we're going to slow down and dial this right in. Okay, so we're going to pause here for a moment just to make sure that it's the valve guide that is still a bit tight. I'm going to just take a moment, clean everything thoroughly, then continue whittling this down, because the last thing you want to do is to undersize this, start again, just because it was a bit dirty and that was what was causing the friction. So we're going to eliminate any other possible cause of friction in the casing and then come back to fitting this valve guide. Okay, we're back here with 8744. Now I'm really glad that I cleaned the casings thoroughly, because you can see the amount of movement we have now. I'm very happy with that. Just enough, we're just in the right kind of amount of resistance to lap this in, just to finish it off, to finish the two faces together. I want to marry the face of this valve guide to the inside face of the keyway in the casing. And so I'm going to apply some lapping compound, but I'm going to be very topical with my application and just put it really exactly where it's needed. The rest of the piston feels fine. It's really just in the keyway, and particularly towards the bottom of the keyway. Perhaps there's a narrowing, I'm not sure. It doesn't look like it, but it does feel like it. So we're going to lap this in now, clean it up, and I'm actually a little bit excited for the result on this one. So I'll be back with this one all lapped in and fitted beautifully. Okay, so we are just in the middle of fitting the piston back into the casing, and I wanted to show you something. So I've put the top caps on because the valve guide of our second replacement one that we've made, the one that we've been fabricating on the second piston in the second casing, is slightly longer. It goes slightly deeper, reaches slightly further down the piston than the other two, the originals. And I put the top cap on just to double check that it's not going to make a difference to the downstroke of the piston. So you can see they are both stopped by the top cap. The important thing to note here is that this second piston with the new valve guide is not being stopped by the end of the keyway inside the casing. It's being stopped where it should and not before by the top cap. So that's just to demonstrate this. Let's get it cleaned up. You can see that it's moving nicely now. Obviously slow, still has lapping compound in it. So we're going to get this all cleaned out. I'm going to treat this from this point on as a standard service, which has to be done after every lapping to clean out all the compound. So we're going to give this one now a service it how we would any other instrument, and I'll come back to you at the end with a little demonstration of, in particular, our second piston. Okay, so we're back with ticket 8744. Now, as so often can happen with repairs to vintage instruments, there are little jobs that can just tend to keep on giving. So the piston's been fit, it was playing, traveling really nicely, and all of a sudden it started to kind of deteriorate and not feel so great anymore. And I was wondering what the reason could be for that. And so I took it out and I noticed that this seemed to be a little gap in here between the top of the piston and the piston proper. And then I noticed a little bit of movement, and because of the heat involved in soldering on the new the new valve guide, the piston is disassembled. So we're back to the soldering bench. We're going to solder this back together, making sure to line up exactly as we had it before so that the porting is correct. We'll direct most of our heat towards the other side of the valve guide, which is being held in also by solder, and that should resolve that issue. Then once that's done, I'll come back to you and we'll show this moving in the piston. Okay, something important to note when soldering cavities like this is that there must be an air vent. In this case we have a big one with the internal thread for the finger button. Also there is a little vent in the top caps of most pistons regardless. And get into focus, there we go. That's very important to leave at least one of those open so that we don't have a chamber, a sealed chamber of hot air, which does expand and does explode. So quick note before we start there, this existing vent hole in here is actually slightly blocked, so we're just going to clear that before we solder this back onto the piston. Okay, and here is our second piston soldered back together. No gap between the top of the cap and the cap itself and the piston itself. And just give it a bit of a clean, bit of oil. And here, that's what it looks like going into the piston. I just want to make sure you saw that new valve guide there soldered on. This goes back into the piston, into the casing, drop the top cap, and we're away. Beautiful. Okay. 1 and 3 are a little bit loud, but that's to do with the springs having been stretched. That can be a side effect of stretching springs to increase tension and resistance. But for movement, they feel good. Everything's kind of lining up nicely. So one more look at the new valve guide here. Has much more surface area and is much more bonded to the piston than the previous repair that was done to this. So that should hold on for a long time. And let's get all the slides back on this and we'll give it a play test. Okay, and we're back here with ticket 8744, our Yamaha Flugelhorn second piston valve guide recreation. So here it is in action. It's just been play tested. You don't want to hear me playing it, but it's playing beautifully. It's porting beautifully. So that is one new valve guide designed, installed, and fitted for a vintage instrument for which you can't buy parts anymore. So I'm really happy with the result. And that brings us to the end of the repair and service of this Flugelhorn.